are back, and we're lucky to have Michael McIntosh here for a little sub episode of
Hmm.
the Drum Corps Coffee Shop podcast, and we're going to talk some WGI stuff. Go ahead, George.
So, Michael, I don't know if you're going to remember this, but in 2013, you had come out and done a little bit of judging for SCPA,
We went to dinner.
and we went to dinner. And it was Caleb Rothy, it was Ralph, myself, and Pete Sapidon. And you had said, and you were, I think, in your second year at Gateway Indoor, probably at that time.
Yes.
And you had mentioned something about specifically the work you were doing at Gateway that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to sort of dig in on, and then we can talk about that whole Gateway experience. And you had said that somebody who knew you, a good friend of yours, somebody who knew you personally, talked about how personal you were being with your show design for Gateway, how it was almost like you were putting yourself out on the floor. And then maybe, somebody who didn't know you as well wouldn't have seen that. I don't know if you remember that conversation, but that always stuck with me. And I wanted to ask you more about that and how you took that opportunity of the time you spent there diving into the percussion independent world pool.
Well, I think that every show that anybody worth their salt tries to design, it takes an ounce of flesh. I mean, we are all, attached at the hip to our product. It's our baby. And it's pure artistry. Again, there's not a lot of moving parts. You're always the melody in WGI. So, there's a real chance to kind of create something special with drums in a gym, so to speak. But I had judged, and I had been lucky enough to judge some incredible shows. Like I was lucky enough to judge with Dennis. I judged Independent World finals in general effect. And, that was me just taking in everything. So my whole approach on the judging thing was, I'm your biggest fan for the next 9 minutes. I'm going to love on you and be vulnerable and silly and stupid and nerdy. And I'm going to just enjoy this because I know how hard it is. I assume I knew how hard it was. So after 2011, I remember I was on the percussion advisory board as the GE representative. And I remember telling Mark that I was going to teach, and he's like, "You're going to what?" Mark Thurston. And I said, I'm going to take a gig and teach. Some friends of mine that had March Night Express were doing this group called Gateway that was in St. Louis. And he had come out and asked me to do it before, and I actually was in school. I went back to school to get my degree in composition. So I was like teaching at Carmel full time and going to school full time and doing Cavaliers. I was like, there's no way, I can do this. So I ended up saying, okay, I've graduated. I want to do this with you. My only experience teaching before that was I marched in the Villa Rica Invitational, which is a small Southern fried drum show. University of Georgia shows up and does their thing. It's incredible. And then I actually I taught Blue Nights in 95, kind of. And then I took Carmel out there in 98 and 99. I think we were 5th one year, we were 10th one year in open. And I was like, this is getting the tarp to the freaking, convention center was like a feat in and of itself.
Yep.
So I had a mad respect for what these guys were doing. But again, I wanted to take a chance. I wanted to see if I was any good. I don't know. You're like, all right, put your money where your mouth is. So I actually stopped judging and went and taught Gateway for 5 years. I wanted to compete against the Tim Fairbankses and the John Mapes and the Ian Groms and all these incredible designers, Jim Wetterlicks and Sean Vega, Mike Jackson, Kevin Shaw, and Shane Gwaltney. I wanted to compete against these guys and girls, and so we were, I think we were 10th in 2012. 2013, we started to make some noise with the Ajna show, which was a lot of, tabla style drumming. And I pulled some from my, past references. I think anyone getting into composition should study tabla rhythms, Indian rhythms, and jazz progressions for keyboards. I think if you've got both of those covered, you're going to be in a pretty safe spot. So I was like, okay, I really want to, you know, compete. And 2014, we did the Oh Say Can You See show, which was very successful for us.
Love that show.
And, you know, that ended up becoming, you know, something that was super, you know, what it ended up being was nothing like it had started to be. And it was just listening to the show and saying, you know, I think this is what this should be. And, you know, taking the Walter Cronkite and moving it to the front of the show at 3:30 on, you know, on Monday before WGI, going, okay, I think this is it. I think this is right. But when you do a movie, when you show a movie, which we did almost every year, you're doing 2 shows. I mean, you're stepping right into it, because it's like, we're going to do, you know, you ever going to see an orchestra do a live soundtrack to like a cartoon, you know, a thing, or it's hard because it's basically a click track with melody, you know, and harmony. And so we're playing to a movie, we're syncing up the movie, and we're playing along to it. So you're creating this audio visual, you know, kind of thing. And I learned in college, Frederick Hegel was this older gentleman, 19th century, and he believed in a cross penetration of the arts. He was like one of the first like multimedias, and I thought that was cool. So I thought, okay, what better way to make a splash than to be able to have, you know, if you give a presentation, if you've got, you know, your PowerPoint going, you know, or you know, whatever the Apple version of that is. I can't. What is that? Not Numbers, Pages. No. What is the Apple version of that?
Is it Keynotes? No.
Keynote. Yeah. So I became like a Keynote Pro right at that, because I had to, because that's what we use. So anyway, put the movie together, and I thought this would be a way to make a splash, you know, because we didn't have the talent that the other groups had. So we tried to play the emotional card, and, you know, Oh Say Can You See became that. You just didn't realize, you know, again, sitting at Cracker Barrel on a Sunday going, this is what it was, not what it was, you know, you're not looking forward going, this is what it's going to be. You hope it's good, but we just had really talented kids in that group. Shelby Shelton was in the front ensemble. She did an amazing job. She's on staff with me at the Cavaliers. And Peter Rep was a section leader. He marched Cavaliers. He came back for his age out. So, and, you know, Jason Palmer, we just had, everybody was invested, and man, that show just turned out to be something really special. And then, you know, we kept it going, and, you know, I said I'd give them 5 years. And after 3, man, I was so spent, because it's a pound of flesh in WGI. I mean, it's a pound of flesh. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Keep my word. I'll do this for 5 years. So we had the 2016 show, the 2017 show, and then I left and actually went back into judging. And I felt very proud of that, because I went and built, you know, the shake machine at McDonald's. You know, I put my money where my mouth was. I went in and competed. And I think every judge should do that in some way, shape, or form, because that gives you a chance to feel what emotionally everybody's going through, and the respect for those guys to do this year in and year out. I mean, when Ian Grom and John Mapes are standing there and Chino Hills leaves and another one of their stellar groups comes in, how do they change gears like that? That's crazy to me that they have that mindset. They've just been doing it. They're inside the art. So I'm like, wow, I don't know how these guys do it, and girls do it every year, you know, and they maintain that level of excellence. So I went and I competed, because I thought it was going to make me a better judge, and hopefully it did. I don't know if it did or not, but I definitely garnered a respect, and I felt like I was letting those guys know and girls know that I believe in them and I'm on their team, and I wanted to experience it and get beat down and try and have some success. But it was more important to me for me to go through that than to say that than to not do it. Maybe it was stupidity, maybe it was ego, I'm not sure, but it was important for me to experience that so I could become a better judge. And you know, those guys and girls know that respect level is absolutely there.
For an older person like myself, I missed a big chunk due to life commitments. You know, back when I was younger, the indoor scene wasn't really a big thing. But now, you know, I've jumped back into it because my daughter has been involved in school, and I really love it. So what are some shows that you could think of that are ones like someone with me that wants to learn more about the past, are like monumental shows that you think that, okay, you got to check out this show, this show, this show, and this show? And what are some that have been, that jumped out and have really, as a judge, have grabbed you and like held you and said, this is it? I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, before I was a judge, one of the shows, the first show that freaked me totally out was I thought the Blue Knights, like Mike Nevin did an incredible job arranging for the Blue Knights in '95. I just thought it was super fresh and cool, and it was cool because you were just seeing people throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks. You know, everybody had the volume thing down, so every show was like Murder and Sinister and, you know, Shock and Halloween and Awe. And but then people started to really push the boundaries, and I think the first two people that really knocked my socks off were Jim Wunderlich and Mike Jackson when they were at Mission Viejo. The Infinity Show. The Infinity Show blew my freaking mind. The part where they went into the rubato, the chordal a melody from Tron, da 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 dee da 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 da, and they did a rubato while the chick 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 was maintaining. I was just like, oh my, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then the gang, they'd stamp the Infinity thing. I was like, what tool is that? Who finds this cool tool that looks like it came off the set of a, you know, this 2000 Stanley Kubrick movie? So that was incredible for me. The stuff that Dave Marvin was doing out at North Glen, I thought was incredible. Where they're using the blinds, you know, in a really interesting way.
What years were those around?
I think that was like 98, 99, maybe, okay. 99. I thought, I don't know if it was, I think it was maybe 2003, 2004, Mystique's Seven Deadly Sins. I thought was incredible. The ending where they were going through all of the emotions in this real, like, you know, Debussy kind of way was unbelievable. And they, you know, they had some absolute players in that line. So that show was amazing to me. The Touch show that Rhythm X did, it blew me out. I thought it was incredible. Going back, I think maybe it was 99, 2000 was the, see, what was that? It was the RCC, the Deaf show.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That's
Sound of Silence.
Cool. Yeah.
I was bawling my eyes out by the end of that. I mean, it was amazing. So, and then they did a show where they were in yellow and purple, and they were doing a lot of dancing and things of that nature, which I thought was amazing.
I think I've seen that one too. I just can't think.
It's
of
early
the year.
2000s. I forget.
Is that were they with like Justin Timberlake or something like that?
Yeah, Casey Brohard was in that. Yeah, they did. You know. Like they had the white gloves and the yellow, they were locking and popping and locking while they were moving.
Sapidin taught him how to do some pop locking for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
And they were drumming, right? And I'm always a sucker for one of Jim Wunderlich's melodies. I think he's one of the best in the business at that. Him and Kay Shaw for sure. Andrew Markworth. But I think the next show that floored me was the show by Mystique. It was the what was their show? They were all bald. This was probably, maybe 10 years ago.
Was that the one with the big gong in the background?
Yeah. Anya was in the back, and it was Mantra. Was
yeah.
the show.
Okay. Yeah. That's a cool show. I've seen that one.
You know, I swear I smelled like incense during the show. I probably did. Don Click probably, you know, wafted all that through there. You know, there were actually composers. It's interesting, man. Like that multimedia thing has been around forever. There was a crazy composer, Saint Saëns, I think. He did Carnival of the Animals. They squirted perfume in during their performance to create sensory effects, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I thought that was amazing. And some of the stuff, the Batman show that Tom Unks did at Dartmouth, I think was like one of the cleanest shows I've ever heard in my life. Even their isolated rim shot had a chalky quality to it that was just like, oh my God. You know, and I just thought it was cool because they actually came on and and Marcy like swept a bunch of like papers around the floor to give it that, you know, Terminator, you know, look. I mean, it was just freaking amazing. So I'm always inspired by those shows that I don't necessarily, it's not about the drumming. You know, some of the stuff that Pulse has done has just been incredible. I think the show they were doing this year was just absolutely incredible. And, you know, those guys got it down. You know, some of the Chino Hills stuff, different shows for different things. You know, I like what Ike Jackson was doing because I thought he tackled really emotional subjects like AIDS and cancer and, you know, things that were very serious. And then I like the shows that you were so emotionally engaged by the end of it that, you know, the drumming was just the cherry on top, you know, like a Mike Jackson snare break at the end when you didn't even need it. You were already all in by that time. You know, when they did it was I'm not sure what the show was titled, but it had a very military feel to it. The female who is now, she's part of the Zildjian family. She played drum set for Chino Hills. She played drum set for one of the groups that they were doing early on, and she marched snare for Blue Devils, and then she marched in RCC. Do you know who I'm speaking of? I don't know her. I don't know her name, but I'm a fan. You know, it's just she's taking care of business. She was in that snare line. I just thought that was really tasty, and that's that classic quasi-military, you know, weird, nerdy Jim Wonderlick and Mike Jackson thing. They just do so well. No one else can do that. You know, like the way that Jim would sample the captain talking to the mic, and each time he would click the mic, there was like a beep, just a cool sound. You're like, really? Like you're dotting that I that hard. I mean, that's amazing. So any show that had an emotional component to it, because I'm an emotional guy, I will cry, I will laugh, I will scream, I'll completely nerd out. And I got busted doing that. They threw that '08 touch tape onto the
YouTube
intranet.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and I was on my game that night. They were on that game that night. I was having an absolute ton of fun, and you know, wasn't being anything but, you know, what I thought I should be at that time. And you know, you just never know who's listening, right? I mean, you just never know, and that stuff's in ink for sure. So,
you know, it's interesting. One other thing that Austin Collins had mentioned to me is that he got a peek once at one of your scores, one of your drum scores. And it had notes just all over it, right? Stuff just for you, right? And anybody who's ever seen you, a video of any of your groups warming up in the lot, right? Knows that there's something going on where you're having this really strong internal experience. As you're watching, you know, and feeling your group perform. And what I'm hopeful of, and what it kind of seemed like, was that your time with Gateway allowed a little bit more of that to come out, because the canvas is bigger. The what you have access to is much more, you have more toys to play with and much more colors to use. And I mean, you are, you know, somebody who comes off with a lot to say, you know, and it's nice that you had that time in this activity.
Is that bad?
No, what I'm saying is like when somebody watches you experiencing your own work, realizes that there's depth there, that there's substance there, there's a whole experience there that's happening for you, and I think Gateway allowed us to see more of that, if that makes sense.
There's no hiding. There's definitely no hiding indoors. I mean, because you're the melody, you know, like 1,000% of the time. And, you know, for me, the drain on putting yourself out there that far. And, you know, Mike McIntosh is putting out a group, you know, well, there's an expectation there. I hate to say that, probably. Maybe there is. But I don't know. I've been that guy before. I've been a dick. And I don't like that guy, you know. And now I just hope that I can be you know, I have as much anxiety, and, you know, I freak out with the best of them. You know, I drink too much eggnog, and I put my socks on backwards, and, you know, just a normal dude. And it's easy to easy to forget that. And then you know, you're talking to somebody that is talking to you as someone who designed, let's say, you know, the quad feature from whatever year, and you kind of feel like, you know, wow, this person is speaking to me as a brand and not as a person. And you can't fault them for that. They don't know you, but, you know, you're just trying to put yourself out there, and you're trying to be the best version of you, and you're trying to be vulnerable. Hi, beautiful.
Speaking of being vulnerable.
Hi.
What time are you going upstairs?
I'll be upstairs in about 20 minutes. Okay. I'm almost.
I think that's our cue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Apologize to her for us.
Yeah, we're sorry.
Hey, these guys, they said they're sorry. She's like, I don't care.
All right, Michael. Well, we don't want to keep you much longer, and we appreciate your time. And hopefully, in the future, maybe we can watch some of these shows you've been talking about with you. And
I would love that. I would love that
for sure.
And you never get that same feel because the dimensionality, two-dimensional versus that emotion, that rawness, that the murmurs, kids drumming on pads during the breaks. It's amazing. But I think what you guys are doing is real special, and you're very relatable, and your love for the activity is something that I gravitate towards. I'm a huge fanboy of George, and I'm a huge fanboy now of both of you, and I really appreciate the love and respect, and know that it's reciprocated at every level from me. This means a lot to me, to show people that we're more than just a pen and paper. We're real people with real feelings and real faults and real insecurities, and we're just trying to do the best thing we can do like everybody else.
Well, for me, it's been an honor and a pleasure to kind of open up the Michael McIntosh book and take a peek in there and get to know you on a level, like I had said earlier. You're a hero of mine growing up when I would watch the Blue Devils drum lines, and now I'm a hero watching the Cavaliers, and I've seen some of the Blue Coat stuff, and that stuff is great, and I look forward to much more to the future.
Keep doing what you're doing, please, because otherwise we wouldn't have it.
Thank you.
We would not have it if you weren't creating. Really enjoyed this conversation, Michael. Thank you for doing it.
Oh man, I just love you guys for sure.
Yeah, and we look forward to talking to you again in the future, hopefully soon, and like I said, breaking down some stuff. All right, Michael, and on that, we will wish you good night. Make sure you tell your daughter we're sorry for keeping you up and keeping you away for a little bit, and you have a nice evening, and we'll be talking with you soon.
Appreciate you guys. Much love. Stay safe. Okay, talk to you.
Talk to you later.